just get started, okay? Okay. All right, guys. So the A2 Low Mid program, if you don't know, the A for the program stands for admissions. And that's pretty much because we're focused on test prep skills. Okay. Basically, we're trying to provide students specifically with the TOEFL Junior test skills that they're going to need in order to do well on standardized tests. If you don't know about the TOEFL Junior, it's basically made by the ETS. Okay, and this is the test that basically the achievement test that you just gave is basically based off of. For the low mid programs, they will be taking the TOEFL Junior. These are levels Mega, Giga, Terra, Bridge, Power, Birdie. And then there's the IBT TOEFL, which is the Eagle and Masters levels, okay? Overall, this is basically the learning curve. As they get higher, obviously, they start to plateau, and therefore, you need to be able to adjust your skills and also give them their feedback. Here, for the mid-levels TOEFL juniors, especially if you get to the higher levels of Bridge, Par, Birdie, they should be doing pretty well, scoring very well on this test. So you're really going to be helping them mostly probably with their writing and speaking to really improve their scores, okay? But for the lower levels like the Mega, Giga, you're really going to be focusing on some basic skills to really help them out. This is what the actual test is actually composed of, the TOEFL Junior test for ETS. However, our achievement test does not cover based on time. This test, they've recently changed it, but this year they've changed it, but usually it takes about anywhere between like 5 hours sometimes to complete. But if you look here, the standardized test will have reading, listening, and then a grammar like language, form, and meaning. But this section we don't test on in Cheongdam, okay? However, for the low levels, Mega and Giga, they do provide some really good skills in their writing and towards the end of the lesson that actually does focus on this section, okay? Same thing for the speaking test. This term specifically, you'll be doing the picture narration, okay? And this is what we'll be testing them on. So you want to be able to focus on this, especially for the A2 programs this term. You'll see them in the program lessons as we go on. However, there are three other types of tests, but we don't actually test those, okay? But we do cover them. We cover the ones in the gray box. So we do cover non-academic listening speaking and academic listening speaking, okay? We do not do read aloud. We do not do that in any of the programs so far, okay? Same thing for the writing test. This term, you'll be doing an opinion essay, okay? This will be for the achievement test, the level up. We do also, in the lesson, focus on email responses, but we do not do paragraph editing in the Terra to Birdie levels, okay? So we don't have that editing section, okay? Okay. So overall for Mega to Birdie, basically I'm just breaking down the different question types. So for reading and listening, throughout your whole lesson, you will spend maybe 1 or even 2 lessons focusing on different types of question types, how to identify them, how to answer these questions in an effective manner, and breaking down basic skills for them, okay? If you look, many of the listening and reading question types are similar. However, there are some differences, okay? Overall, for the structure, it's pretty much the same, except there are actually quite a bit of differences. So here, writing and speaking for your programs, the writing lessons will be all the odd lessons. So you're going to start off, and I'm going to show you the writing lesson, but then all your even lessons, you'll have a speaking component, okay? So that's just something to remember, that you're going back and forth, but then there are some modifications that I'll show you as we move further, okay? There is also simulation tests. Now, I took this from the guide that they gave me recently. I don't 100% believe it. I think there's a mistake, but everyone tells me no, but I think there is, okay? So I do think there are more simulation tests and reviews that they're not telling us about, or they have somehow made a mistake. So here, this is a breakdown of Terra, Bridge, and Par and Birdie. There's some differences in the program. So depending on what level you're teaching, you need to make sure you keep that in mind. So based on, for example, the readings, right here, you'll see the different question types. So for lesson 1 in Terra to Bridge, you'll be focusing on main idea. The listening type will be an announcement, okay? So those happens for 2 weeks. And then there is a review. A review goes over the question types and types of listenings that you have already covered in the previous 2 lessons, okay? Whereas if you look at the PAR and Birdie, it's a little bit different, okay? The PAR and Birdie, you'll have main idea, detail, vocabulary type questions for the reading, and then you'll have a review, okay? Same thing here. You'll have announcements and conversation listening types, and then you'll have a simulation test later on, okay? The simulation test is a totally different, okay, program. There is a guide that your BM or FM should provide you with on how to access that. When they do the simulation test, students will need to use earphones and they will go through the test independently, okay? Depending on what level you're teaching, there is either a simulation test for just the reading, or there could be a simulation test for the whole, all 4 components, reading, listening, speaking, or writing, depending on what they're doing that day. So you need to keep track of that when you're doing it. Just so you know, you don't have to like write all this down right away, because this can be found in the workbooks, okay? So when you get the workbook, so for example, this is A2 PAR workbook, okay? Right here, the skill overview, the syllabus, it'll actually break it down for you, okay? So that way you can see what you need to do for each week, and that way you can prepare ahead of time, okay? Along with that, the question types, they'll give you a basic overview as well as an example of different question types. You're welcome to use these if you want in your lesson. That way you have an example before they begin. But I do think the program does provide you with enough steps and as well as examples that you'll have more than enough. But this can be helpful for you when you're prepping, and also what steps to take specifically. It just makes it a little bit more condensed compared to what the actual program always shows you. And I'll explain that in a little bit. Okay. Obviously in the reading books, they will provide you with all the readings, okay, as well as areas to take notes. Depending on your branch or your location, I know, for example, our location, we do make a strong effort to make sure we utilize the workbooks in the classroom. Also for me, it makes it a little bit easier, because when students have to answer the questions on the tablet, they don't have to use the dual screen. They have all their notes and all their information already in the workbook to refer to. Okay, any questions? No? Okay, so just a really quick overview of the low levels. So all the A2 programs, they're basically gonna have like a skill section, a practice section, and a simulate section, okay? The low program is a little bit different, it just in the sense that here, you'll have an activate section, just like in C1. I don't know why I went all the way there. That was weird. I swear that just said A2 mega. All right, hold on. Okay, so what's different is, and you will not have this in the mid-levels, is you'll have an activate section. Similar to your C1 program, you'll have some vocabulary, because obviously the lower levels, they're gonna need to utilize this a little bit more, as well as filling in the blanks. So just like you do for C1, you'll add some media cards, you'll go over, show, don't tell type system. That way they can know, understand maybe the readings and the listenings. Now, if you look here, there is the reading sections, okay? And these are all just basically practices. Obviously, you should be guiding your students, helping them through this, okay? Fill in the blanks. If you don't know, just a quick tip, but these little boxes here, when they have their numbers on it, that's just telling the students and you how many words they need to fill in, okay? So this will have 1 word, this will have 3 words, okay? That's just a tip, so that way you know maybe what goes in there. Unhealthy, keep the taste. Okay, so if you look, it doesn't have a simulate section here. It goes straight to the listening section, which is the take note section. Okay, but after you have completed both the reading skills, the strategy and practice, and the listening strategy and practice, you then will have the simulate section. And this will look a little different when we show you when I show you the mid sections. Okay, so there's a simulate for the reading and then a simulate for the listening. So you'll do both, okay, right afterwards. Then, like I said, there is either a writing or speaking. So this would be a writing practice, okay? And this will look the same as the mid-levels, okay? But then at the end, there is something called acquire. And I really like this section. I think it's especially important for the lower levels. I'm sure if you were doing the achievement test this term, you saw how bad they write sometimes. And this is similar to what I said is the language form and meaning section, okay? Where they need to start getting a little bit better grammar and they need to be able to identify differences, right? And I think these have some really good skills. There are a lot of pages of them, so I wouldn't necessarily do them all, but having capital letters, right, is very important. Names, okay, titles. I think this is just really important lesson that I find that they continually make this mistake on. So I really do like it, and I'd like to take the time to go over it, okay? So that's really the main differences between the low levels. So I'm not going to focus on this, but all the components will also be in the mid levels, just in a different order, okay? Any questions? Okay. So I'm looking at A2 par here. This is, I swear that was just A2 par. And now it just went to A2 mega. All right, A2 par. Okay, so here, for the A2 par level, okay, you're gonna basically have 3 parts, okay? No, more than 3 parts. Basically, you're gonna, hold on, you're gonna have a diagnose, okay? And diagnose is basically like, hey, just try it out. You're gonna have a strategize, and that's gonna be where you give them the skills. You're gonna have a practice, and you're gonna have a simulate. So you have 4 sections for both reading and listening, okay? This will depend on the number of question types you're focusing on, okay? So therefore, diagnose will come up more than once, and it's important when you schedule your time, when you look at the program guide, it gives you the chunk to do all the diagnoses or all the strategize. So you need to break up your time accordingly, and I'll explain that as we move on. So diagnosis is pretty simple. Basically, all you're doing is you're giving students, they say like 4 minutes. I'll usually give them like 2 minutes just to quickly answer the question. Basically, we just want to see how well they can do. Here, they just answer the question. There isn't much to do it. You don't go over it. The reason you don't go over it is because you're going to go over it throughout the other sections, okay? So if you look here, what is the passage mainly about? This is the same passage that they just did for the diagnose, okay? Then for the strategize section, there's a few things you want to notice. Number 1 is the question type, okay? So here, we're going to be talking about stated main idea, but you're also going to be talking about implied main idea. So that means there's going to be another diagnose, there's going to be another strategize, and there's going to be another practice and another simulate, okay? So it's going to go over again for the second type, okay? But for this one, we're just going to focus on the stated main idea, okay? So on the left-hand side, they'll have all the steps broken down for you, okay? As well as there will be links, okay, that you can use in the class as well as in your preparation, okay, to jump you to different sections. But obviously, you can also just click this little button here and you can jump around, okay? But that's just a little tip, okay? So here, the steps are good, but the way they are phrased can sometimes be a little bit difficult. I strongly recommend that you phrase them in a way that's a little bit easier. If you've been teaching C1, right, here, find the most frequently mentioned word or phrase in the first paragraph. What word is repeated? That's all you need to say, okay? So let's find the word that's most repeated, okay? Step number 2, okay, find the signal word that phrases indicates the main idea sentence. Okay, what do I mean by that? I mean, let's find transition words and let's find magic numbers, okay? This is a little bit easier, I think, to rephrase them. That way they understand it a little bit easier, because sometimes just the wording of it can be a little bit wordy and difficult for them to understand, okay? So basically what you're going to do is you're going to go through the steps with the students. You're going to guide them through it, okay? And for each step, you're going to be able to press this light bulb, okay? And it will highlight it. So the most frequently mentioned word or phrase, here we find the word webs, okay? Then step number 2, find the signal word phrase, okay? Here, transition word, however, and one such, okay? So however is a contrast, one such is like an example or a listing. So therefore, we have 2 signal word phrases. If you look here, there's like step 2-2, okay? If there's 2 signal word phrases, we then need to go down into the paragraph, okay? Majority of the time, just so you know, the strategy readings are like perfect examples, okay? They're perfect examples, meaning every step works. There's no tricks, there's no difficulty. So just going through them will be pretty easy. However, once you get to the other sections, these steps might be worked in a different order. So you want to be able to be familiar with all the steps, and that way you can move backwards and forwards if necessary. So for example, like me, if I said, hey, let's find the most repeated word, I would then go directly to the question with my students. I'd say, okay, so if webs is the most important word, let's look at answer choice A, B, C, and D. Which one does not talk about webs? Which one does not talk about webs? Can anyone tell me? No.
C.
Thank you. C does not talk about webs. Look at it. No webs. Okay. How about which other one does not talk about webs?
B.
Thank you. B does not talk about webs. Very good, guys. So therefore, we now have a 50-50 chance. So I really didn't need to go through step 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But because of the strategy, we're trying to make it like, you know, a perfect example. But this step of eliminating 2 will actually show up all the way at the end, all the way down here, where it says eliminate answer choices that do not include the topic. So I click this light bulb, and then I have to scroll all the way back up, and it's crossed those 2 out for me, okay? But you do want them to go through all the steps. That way they'll be able to utilize them later, okay? All right. So now for the practice, the reading has changed, okay? The reading has changed, and the students, you should let the students practice on their own, but you still need to be helping them and monitoring them. They do have the steps in a shortened version, okay, on the side, so they can refer to them still, okay? They can't press the light bulb, but you can, okay? So here, this one's way more difficult, okay? Think about the webs were right there. There was like a bunch of them. Now we're using pronouns, okay? Here, the Renaissance, this period, it, Renaissance. So it like I said, the strategy is just a perfect example. This is going to be a lot more difficult for them. So you want to keep that in mind when they're doing this and when you're helping them, okay? But then they go through the answers again. The process is exactly the same, okay? Hold on. The process is exactly the same. You'll justify the answers by highlighting the boxes. Here are the transition words. Again, there's more than one transition word. So therefore, of course, we have to go to the, okay, first, second, and last sentence of each paragraph to identify what is the topic, okay? And then we can identify what is the key thesis statement or main idea. We eliminate wrong answers because this does not have Renaissance, which is our topic. And then the correct answers. Theories about how to start a Renaissance. Just as a tip, if you teach this class, there are some key vocabulary words. For example, students will not know, or they'll need some assistance on the idea that a catalyst, what is a catalyst? Oh, the catalyst is what something started. Oh, that matches this sentence here, okay? So just keep that in mind. It's a little bit easier in the other paragraphs, okay? Okay, now we have the simulate section. The simulation section, obviously, it's the idea that taking the real test. Obviously, in the beginning, they shouldn't do that well. So I would personally provide more guidance. I wouldn't just say, okay, go for it. Instead, I would maybe elicit, right, the steps from them. Oh, what is the first step? Good, find the most repeated word. Great, let's look in paragraph 1, okay? Can you find the most repeated words? Great, okay? This is a little difficult for them. Like I said, this is going to get progressively more difficult. The strategy is just a perfect example, okay? So it's important that you're prepared, okay? Here, for your preparation also, you do not get the light bulbs with the highlights. So therefore, you need to be able to identify and justify why the correct answer is the correct answer, okay? That's not the correct answer, okay? Oh, yes, that is the correct answer. Okay, so you need to identify why this is the correct answer. And this is actually a little bit difficult because they don't really make it that clear. So make sure you're prepared to explain not only why C is the correct answer, but why A, B, and D are the incorrect answer, okay? Okay, so now if you look, we're gonna do a diagnose section again, okay? Because we're focusing on two types of question types. We're talking about the stated main idea and the implied main idea, okay? So here, you're basically gonna have the same exact process, okay? There'll be a diagnose, strategize, practice, and simulate, okay? So therefore, students will again have 2 minutes just to, okay, try to attempt to answer the question the best they can, okay? Remember, you will not go over it on the previous page because this will be the same exact reading and the same exact question. If you look up top, again, they've changed the question type to the implied main idea. So you're going to want to focus on what implied means and how they have to really use the details to support that idea because it won't be directly stated, okay? However, the steps, especially for just main ideas, are very similar, okay? Here, we're going to look for the repeated words. What are we talking about? Here's the movement. Here, they then change it, eliminate wrong answers. So we've eliminated 2, okay? Now we go back, find the key words or phrases in the answer choice. And the economic protest movement, okay? Okay, so here's the practice. The practice is a different one, okay? It's gonna get progressively more difficult, but this one isn't that bad from what I remember teaching it. The steps will be there for the students, okay? We're just simply reinforcing the strategies, okay? So it's introduced, and now we want to reinforce them from the previous section. But they are like, again, they are a little bit shorter, okay? Okay, and then here, again, it's a simulate section, okay? Here, obviously, just to give you an idea of how it gets, just the difficulty changes. For example, the first thing is to find out what is the topic, what are we learning about? Okay, so the topic is DST. Okay, well, if I look at A, DST, B, DST, C, DST, D, DST. So therefore, my first step of eliminating the answer that does not include the topic does not work, okay? So therefore, we need to move on to step number 2, okay, 3, and 4, okay? So, okay. Okay. As time goes on for the simulate section, obviously, for me, my goal usually is to have students be able to answer for a test about 1 question per minute, around 1 question per minute. And that's the goal. And think that that's the goal that you're trying to reach by like week maybe 8, 9, or even 10 for the actual achievement test. So as time goes on, you're going to be able to, you know, shorten that time. So you might want to start off with a little bit more time and maybe a little bit more guidance. But then as the term progresses, less guidance, right? And have them do it independently, but focus more on justification of your answers. Questions? Good? Okay. Okay, so we're going to move on to the listening section, okay? It is important and it helps students a lot to make sure you identify, right, what type of listening they'll be doing, okay? So for here, this is an announcement and this will help you with the preparation, okay? But just like in the reading, we're going to start off with a simple diagnose section. All you're going to do is click audio.
Listen to a school secretary talking to a group.
And you're just going to play it straight through. There's no pausing, there's no stopping because this is the diagnose section. So you just want them to listen, okay? I recommend that you have them use their notebooks, okay? Or give them extra paper, right? So they can use note-taking tips. I don't think this will be enough sometimes. They may need more, okay? But you play it straight through, okay? Then they have to answer the question. Just so you know, this audio is not a replay of the listening. The audio is just simply a playing of the question, so I don't think it's necessary. It's just going to say,
What is the main topic of the talk?
okay. And if you look at the end, it gives them about 5 seconds to answer the question. Probably not enough time, but it doesn't matter. Just so you know, the diagnose, there may be more than one for the listening. So if you look here, okay. Sometimes there's more than one, just like in the reading, okay? But here, we then go to strategize. Now, the strategize is broken down into 2 parts. The first part is the note-taking tips, okay? And it's really heavily focused on note-taking. This is the same thing for the low levels also, just so you know. Then the second part is focusing on the question type, which is the main idea. So for all the levels, we really want to make sure that they're writing notes. This again, this is where, and I believe the guide even says, and most of your branches will usually tell you, utilize the workbook here. Make sure they use the workbook. They should not be using this area to write notes, okay? In all honesty, I maybe write my notes here, but I usually just use the board because it's a whole lot easier to write my notes on the board than it is on our tablets. So give paper and have them write it down. Now, the whole listening is broken down into each section, okay? So here, just like before, step 1, write down the topic. And it's only going to be a short little part of the whole listening.
Listen to a school secretary talking to a group of students.
Okay, so here it's important. WH questions, help them. Okay, guys, remember it's an announcement, okay? It's an announcement. Who's speaking? Who's making the announcement?
Listen to a school secretary.
Oh, it's a school secretary. Oh, okay. Well, is that the same as a teacher? Is that the same as a principal? No, those are different people. Okay, so what are they going to be talking about? Let's listen.
Talking to a group of students.
Good morning, students. The school will be holding a food drive next month.
Okay, so here, that's pretty much it. If you look here at these little T boxes, they also have this in your other levels. Okay. These give you signal phrases, okay, that help you identify or help students maybe identify what the topic is, right? You click it, school life events, topic signals, okay, and who, okay? So here, these are the questions you will be asking them in order to help them out, okay? Now, if you press the light bulb on your tablets, right, the answers, hold on. Should show. Okay, supposed to show the script, okay, as well as some model notes. But for whatever reason, it's not showing. Oh, wait, sorry. Sorry, light bulb down the bottom. Okay, so here's the script. So you can use the script. I would use the script for my preparation, but I would not use the script in this class, okay? So there's no reason why students should be reading when we're doing a listening, okay? And here they give you just a little piece of all the notes. And I like to just keep them on the board. That way they can just write them all down and they can organize them into, you know, thesis, main ideas, major details, and so forth. And I can teach them proper note-taking tips. I pretty much do not press this light bulb during class, okay? I usually have my own set of notes and I know what I want to talk about and I know what I want them to see. If you really want, I guess, you can do eyes on teacher and that way they don't see any of this, okay? And then you're going to play the second part, right? Here we're going to want to do predictions. Okay, so we're doing a food drive. What do you want to know about the food drive? WH questions. Oh, okay. Where is the food drive? When is the food drive, right? What can we bring to the food drive? How do we donate to the food drive? WH questions. Have them predict it. I'll use this area for their predictions and ideas, okay? That way they feel confident when they're writing their notes. Oh, and I can also call on people. Oh, Sally, you already predicted. This is what we would bring, blah, 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 blah. Okay, then same thing. It'll be the other parts.
So throughout the month of May, we'll be collecting canned food, dried goods, and bottled water for...
Okay, so again, their script will be there. Again, I'd use this for my preparation. And then here, they give you a sample notes. I strongly recommend you make your own notes. I always make my own notes. I don't always like to use these notes. I don't like their abbreviations or I don't like their organization. But I want to be able to listen from my students and get whatever notes I want on my board and have them write it down in their workbook. Okay. Okay. So this is the second part of the strategize. Like I said, the first part is focused mainly on just note taking, and then we focus on the question type. There isn't a real breakdown. The idea is that notes should provide you with the answers. So here, this audio, again, it's not a real audio. It just gives you the question. I'll play it for you.
What is the main topic of the talk?
Okay. So also the reason why you want to have your notes on your board and the notes in the workbook is because now they can't see any of their notes. Here's the question, but they have no notes to look at, okay? Sure, they could go to dual screen, but who knows how good that is, okay? Here, they give you a set of fake notes, but like I said, if you made your own notes, this won't work, okay? And then, light bulb, making donation to the food drive. Choose the correct answer, okay? Then again, you'll have the practice section. It'll be broken down again, okay? So here, the practice section, you'll do the same thing, okay? Okay. Main idea question, again, same thing. You'll have made a set of notes, okay? What is the main topic of the talk? Writing an essay. So here, this is a teacher making an announcement and the teacher explaining that. Okay, so here, the simulate sections, there is more than one simulate, okay? If you look here, there's 1, 2, 3 simulates. Again, each simulate, the actual listening file is on a separate page of the question file. So this is where note-taking skills is important because having it in their book. If you, for whatever reason, decide, oh, just write it in the tab, it's going to be hard for them to be able to see these, okay? You do have to click play for each one, okay? They do say that you can have students use earphones for this simulate section and just have unlock it and have them just go. Personally, I don't like doing that. There's a couple of reasons. One, getting them all with earphones. Two, keeping them all on the same page, right? Being able to assess their abilities, especially in the beginning of the term. I'm going to provide more guidance. So I'd probably go over the first simulate as a class, right? Go over the answer as a class before they move on to the second one, okay? That way, hopefully they can improve. As time progresses, yes, I may have them use earphones, but like I said, with the program, there's plenty of simulation tests. Simulation tests, the ones in red, you will need to use earphones and they will need to do it independently, okay? But for the simulate sections in the class book, I like to do them and play them on my TV and go over them. Does that make sense? Okay, because simulate and simulation are not the same thing, okay? A simulation will be done outside of the book, okay, using the MERP, and students will use tablets and they're just going to go through it independently, okay? There will be a program guide posted on the FTP for that, okay? Okay, so again, for listening, we're going to do the same thing, okay? Again, the question type will be broken down, question type as well as note-taking tips. For this particular lesson, we're going to be focusing on speaker's purpose, okay? So same thing, just a different question type. We're going to go through the same steps. Okay, practice. Steps are minimized, not as much information. Okay. And then simulate again. Here we're focusing on announcements based on the speaker's purpose. Okay. Again, there are 2 speaker purposes. Okay. Okay. So any questions so far? Any questions on the basic flow of the mid program and what to do? Like I said, the difference between the low and mid, the simulate all comes at the end for both reading and listening, but here it's broken down after each question type, they get a simulate. No? Okay, moving right along then. We're doing fine. Okay. So remember, odd lessons, you'll be doing writing. Even lessons, you'll do speaking. Okay, so for just time purposes, obviously, I'll go over the writing sections for lesson 1. And for the, okay, for the writing and speaking sections, they give you the same breakdown. Okay, so you have diagnose, strategize, couple strategies, practice, simulate. Okay, same thing. I definitely, and especially for your first day, you're definitely not going to have time to go over all these pages, nor do I think all the pages are necessary. I do like the skills and strategies that are broken down, but I don't think they necessarily need to be done on each individual page, okay? So I strongly recommend you look at the strategies that they're covering and you condense them, okay? Using either maybe a practice, okay, and then follow those steps through the practice or one of the strategy pages, because it's just broken down into way too many sections, I feel, and it's just too time consuming, okay? Also, for the diagnose section, like I said, diagnosis, you're just supposed to let students just go for it. And they say to give them 7 minutes, which I think definitely is way too much time just to have them write a letter or an email that they have no clue how to write. They're just going to be typing something. You're just going to get one paragraph or one sentence for 7 minutes. So I recommend actually just not doing the diagnose and just going straight to the strategies, okay? And like I said, I like the strategies. Okay, so here, determine the purpose of the email. What is the email subject? Okay, who's it from? Okay, what do they want done? Okay, then I like the breakdown. This is also helping them with just basic paragraph, right? So identifying the main question and then the follow-up question. Okay, so what are we gonna have to do? We're gonna have to answer these questions, okay? Most of them will be preference or choice, just like an opinion writing or an opinion speaking. Remember, for the opinion writing, that is going to be on their achievement test, right? So here, for example, question number 1, should we invite a speaker who specializes in business and technology or one in art and entertainment? Here's a choice. It's a preference, right? This is something that they will have to write about, okay? Number 2, would you invite a young speaker or an older speaker, okay? Mandatory or optional? So all of these are typical opinion writing questions in the form of a preference, okay? Okay, so here, this is where I feel like it gets, I don't know if it's 100% necessary to go over this on this specific page. Why don't we just do it straight in the practice, right? So here, use the same greeting as the email. Dear, dear, Nora, Nora. Though it's important, okay? Opening phrase followed by the purpose. I'd love to help you. Invite a guest speaker. Okay, here I like this, using transition words, listing words, connecting words, okay? Lead in examples, I think, I recommend, I prefer, I do like this page, okay? So transition, first, I suggest. If this is an opinion writing, first, I think you should, or I agree, or I disagree, right? Because blah, 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 blah. For example, blah, 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 blah. Also, I don't think that they need to use always the same exact format. And therefore, using just like, you know, first because, it's good for the lower levels, but I think I want to teach them how to use different types of sentence structures and different types of vocabulary as time goes on. So that's what I think. Next, finally, but I like the transition words, because, and then maybe extend it to, for example, such as, and providing more details, okay? Closing, Okay. So like I said, I just don't think I need a whole page to go over this with them. I could just do it in the practice. Okay. Again, dear Nora, it's just a breakdown of everything we just did. First, this, okay? Paragraph spacings, okay? So like this page, like I said, I would maybe use this page because it's a little bit easier. It has everything on there. And then I would just, in my tablet, when I'm going over, I'd go over those strategy steps. Okay, notice guys, they use a transition word first, next, finally, good. What other transition word? Oh, because, good, da, 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 okay? I don't think, and especially for your first day, you're gonna do welcome letters, you're gonna be introducing yourself. That's just gonna take up a lot of your time. Okay, so here's a practice. The practice is based off of, like I said, a different email or a different reading. So here we have a different name, dear Seth, blah, 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 right? And okay, same thing, same structure. First, next, why, finally, why. Preference questions. Would you like to have rehearsal in the school weeknights or on the weekends? Okay. Okay. And then the practice does it all over again. Okay. So here, the simulate section. Okay. I do think these are more helpful. And then you can utilize all the skills, right? So here, dear Kevin, right? You're Kevin, but it's to Steven. So you'll have them type and write it out in the tablet is fine. They'll be able to type, dear Steven, don't forget the comma, blah, 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 right? I'd love to help, right? What is the question, blah, blah, blah. First, right? Next, and they can continue to use those same phrases. Okay. And I'm sure you know that this will also take them quite a lot of time. So cutting out other sections like the diagnose and cutting out those sections, you'll actually have the opportunity to let them actually write it out. One thing I will say about the writing section though, if you take a look here, if you can see it, if you are doing, let's say, Terra to Bridge, you have one opinion writing practice here, and then you have one simulation practice here, and then they have the achievement test. I would speak to your FM, or I'd speak to your HI or BM, whoever your manager is, and see if maybe you can make some modification to maybe give them another opinion practice, okay? Because you don't want them to go into the actual achievement test week 10 and have only done one opinion essay. But you know, you can also, like I said, utilize some of those skills from the email into the opinion essay, if that makes sense. But I like to make sure that they know what they have to do for the achievement test with at least one or two practices beforehand. Okay. Other than that, just like in the C1, there are the skills pages at the end. It'll give you, like I said, a breakdown, just like I showed you in the notebook, what the lessons will be, what your question types will be focused on. Okay. So for example, okay, little information about the TOEFL Junior. Okay. Strategies. You're welcome. These are the links that jump you here. But like I said, again, make sure you internalize them and make sure you make them in a way that students understand and are a little bit more manageable. Okay. Okay. There are individual practices. So if you feel like students need a little bit more practice, for example, here's the main idea reading section. Okay. That way they can see it. It should have the same idea. Oh, there's our signal word, our transition word, however, da, 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 da. And you get a couple of those. That way, if you want to focus or if you find the students are really struggling, you can do a few more practices with them as a class. Okay. Writing sections, it gives you down the, okay. So as you know already, if you've done the achievement test, they only have 10 minutes to write out their essay, okay, or opinion essay. Email is 7 minutes, but remember, we don't test on that, okay? Okay. Any questions? No questions? Anybody still here?
I'm here, Peter.
Okay, guys. So again, just to clarify, it's all broken down into 4 sections, especially for the mid-level. Diagnose, we just want to see how they can do. Okay. We have the strategy, where we're going to give them specific steps, specific strategies in order to answer specific questions or listening types. Then you'll have the practice section where they get to internalize and use those. And then the simulation is supposed to be like a real life testing situation. That's pretty much it. Before you guys go, hold on one second. Before I let you go, I need to send you. Okay, there's 2 links I'm going to send in. Give me one second. The first one, this is a post test. So I think, hold on, you need to complete this. It's mainly focused on the A2 mid section, just so you know. Okay, so this is a post test for the A2 mid. Not so much the low levels, megas and gigas. And then there is a survey link, so you can let HQ know how much you enjoyed this workshop on Zoom. It's better on Zoom. Okay, if there's no other questions, you're welcome to email me. Other than that, make sure you click the link. Make sure you complete the test as well as the survey. Good?
Thank you.
All right, bye guys.
Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Peter.